Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I appreciate all of you hanging out with me. We got a lot to discuss. Big story out about college football, the future, the idea of private equity being involved. I've got a bunch of thoughts on it. I may write on some of this, just FYI. We got a CBS News controversy over whether they interviewed a guest too aggressively about his anti-Israel book. I can't believe this is real. New York Times says in its Sunday magazine, which I have in front of me right here, that Trump may use the Department of Justice to prosecute his rivals if he gets in charge. We've got numbers out there that I think are significant in the Big Ten states that tie in with what I have been telling you, which is Kamala's in trouble. Kamala went on Colbert, couldn't answer a question about what she's going to do different, couldn't on The View either. It is a disaster. Elon Musk weighed in on Kamala. All of that and more. Just an update. We are going to do the fade. Kelly Stewart and I taping it a day early. It will be up Wednesday. That's today, this evening, I believe. And I want to say right off the top, we are doing a fundraiser in East Tennessee for everybody impacted by Hurricane Helene. Chad Withrow and Jonathan Hutton are going to be live at 5 Eastern at the Yeehaw Brewery in downtown Knoxville. If you are a Florida Gator fan, if you are a Tennessee Volunteer fan, if you don't like either of those teams, but you are going to be in Knoxville, they will be live at 5. I will be live with an OutKick show at 7. That is the plan right now. We are going to try to raise money for so many people out there dealing with a lot of challenges. I know Hurricane Milton is coming in too. We may well have to do something for that also. I hope that the impact cannot be as bad as has been forecast, but it is scheduled. The latest I've seen is to make landfall tonight around 11 p.m. Eastern. So that is what, about 8 hours from now, as I am talking to all of you. So we hope that that impact will be less significant and less dire than has been discussed so far, but we will be on top of that. All right. I'm going to start with college football here. And again, if you are a diehard college football and NFL fan, Kelly Stewart and I are going all in on sports gambling here in a little bit. That show will be up. But big picture, there is a long story up about Candle Media, which is an entity in private equity that wants to be involved. These are two former Disney executives in the future of college athletics. As I am speaking to all of you, right now there are meetings going on in my hometown where I am talking to you of Nashville, Tennessee, about the future of college athletics involving the Big Ten Commissioner, Tony Petitti, and the SEC Commissioner, Greg Sankey. I think both these guys are very smart. It's no great surprise. I have known Greg Sankey for a decade or more. He's been on a bunch of shows over the years. I do not know Tony Petitti well, but obviously I know everybody that the Big Ten partners with at Fox Sports extremely well. Because I've been in Fox Sports for over a decade as well. So I do not understand. Let me say big picture. I understand why private equity wants to be involved in the futures of the Big Ten and the SEC. It is a great business model. College football is the second most popular sport in America after the NFL. I understand why lots of people want a piece of the Big Ten and the SEC, just like I understand why a lot of people would want a piece of the NFL. Here's the deal. I don't understand why the Big Ten or the SEC would sell it. I've sold a business. I may sell businesses again in the future. I'm not opposed to selling businesses. It's fun to build something from nothing to a $100 million valuation. I've done that, okay? That is a lot of fun. But the SEC and the Big Ten value, in my opinion, is not going anywhere anytime soon, that they need to take private equity and sell any stake at all in these conferences. If I were advising them, if they said, Clay Travis, what do you think the future of college athletics should be? I would say own your business, like the UFC and the WWE own their business. I have been a longtime shareholder of the WWE and the UFC. Let me tell you where those stocks are right now. TKO Group Holdings is $126 a share right now. That is nearly a 52-week high and an all-time high. If you listened to me a decade ago and you bought stock in WWE, you have almost 10 times your money just by buying and holding that stock. You can go back and search the mentions. I told you a decade ago, I'm buying WWE. I think it's a fabulous stock to own. I encourage you to go buy it, hold it, because I believe the future of entertainment and media is about owning your asset. I even argued a long time ago, and I was right, that Netflix should have bought the WWE, that NBC, Comcast should have bought the WWE, that Fox should have bought the WWE, Disney. I argued for it. I was right, but they stayed independent. And now that company is worth $10 billion, and it is setting all-time highs. And I think they are likely to expand and add other assets. I would say that the Big Ten, in conjunction with Fox Sports, should go public. Some of you out there are going to say I'm crazy. I think the Big Ten and Fox should go public. I think the SEC, in conjunction in some way with ESPN, with Disney, which has their rights right now, should go public as well. If you want to unlock the value of your football assets in particular, the analogy at play is all of the hospitals inside of the SEC and the Big Ten, almost all of them that I'm aware of now are for profit. You should spin football off, make it all of the employees, all of the players' employees, and set a salary cap and set the rules for every school that are the same, much like in the NFL and the NBA and the NHL, and go forward allowing people to buy stock in your company, which you spiral off as a publicly traded money if you need a liquidity event. I would not take private equity money from anyone. Now, that's not because I don't admire a lot of people in private equity. I think they are very, very smart. But what they are seeing is an incredible asset valuation of the SEC and the Big Ten, and they want to make a lot of money off of it. And that's why they want to invest. But I don't think you need them. I never took any private equity money at OutKick. I had people come up and they said, hey, I'll invest X or I'll invest Y. Never took the money. And when we sold it, there were only 2 equity holders in the entire company. And as a result, we got a big payday, but I didn't want somebody else to have control over my company until I sold it to Fox, and now they have complete control over it. Company's doing well. Bigger than it's ever been, more influential than it's ever been. In my opinion, Fox has got a heck of an asset in OutKick. But I never took money. I never sold partial shares. I knew I had a valuable asset, and until I found the best possible outcome, I didn't want to take private equity money. I think that anybody out there, and I know a lot of you watch or listen to this stuff, who is an administrator at a college campus, who is an executive, You don't need the private equity money. It's going to overly complicate the ownership structures, and I think it makes it more difficult going forward in the event that you want to unlock value. If I were using, much of sports is about looking at people and saying, okay, this guy might be the next Patrick Mahomes. This guy might be the next Christian McCaffrey. That's the whole purpose of the draft. That's why the combine exists, so they can get measurables and they can try to figure out which players that are young remind them of players in the past. To me, you want to follow the example set by the UFC, Dana White, and WWE, Nick Khan, in unlocking their value, and I think you do it through public markets, not through private equity, in the event that you want to go for a liquidity event. My advice, I may write on this, and I would make Fox and ESPN, Disney/ESPN partners, because they have the rights going forward. So those are my thoughts as the Big Ten and the SEC are meeting to talk about the future of college athletics. All right, let's go into politics. I told you that I was confident that Kamala Harris was behind, and that was because out of nowhere, she suddenly did 60 Minutes, Call Her Daddy, Howard Stern, Stephen Colbert, and The View. Those interviews did not go well for her, which was the reason she was not doing interviews in the first place. They were actually disasters for her. But you don't change your trajectory if everything is going well. And the analogy I used to connect it to sports, I said, if you're a running team and you don't have a lot of offensive explosiveness, as long as you lead or stay within one score or so, you can keep running the exact same game plan. But as soon as you fall behind, you are in trouble. And Kamala is behind. Wall Street Journal had a big article saying she's not connecting with Big Ten voters, saying that the internal polls, which reflected from Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, showed Trump winning Wisconsin by 3 and her only up 2 on Hovde. You usually leak in extra internal polls to the media because you're trying to encourage people to change their behavior. Today, in the last hour or so, Quinnipiac came out with polls showing Trump up in Wisconsin and Trump up in Michigan. Now, it had him down a couple of points in Pennsylvania, but if Trump wins Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, the math for Kamala Harris to be elected president becomes really, really difficult. This comes on the heels of a New York Times poll that had Trump up 14 in Florida and of gambling markets that have Trump as a substantial favorite in Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona. If Trump wins Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona, he only needs one of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, or Michigan to get the electoral majority he needs to become president of the United States. So this is a big deal. Now, the easiest pathway, as I've said for some time, is Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. That puts Trump in the presidency. It doesn't even matter what happens in Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, or Nevada. But if he wins Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona, as he is a big favorite to win all 3 of those right now, and one of the Big Ten states, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, he's also president of the United States. Right now, I think Trump should be favored to win the election. Those polls coming out are telling you what the internals for Kamala Harris are showing and where her challenges are. Now, as I am speaking to all of you in real time, Trump has opened in the poly market, presidential markets, he has opened a lead of roughly 7 points. As I am speaking to all of you, 53% chance that Trump wins, 46% chance that Kamala Harris wins. That is the biggest lead that Trump has had in a month. The biggest lead, honestly, I believe, let me see if I can scroll over here and see. I think that's the biggest lead that Trump has had over Kamala Harris, period, since she became the nominee, basically going all the way back to July. So the betting markets are telling you Trump is opening up a 7 percentage point lead in Polymarket. Now, others of you out there say, oh, well, Polymarket's rigged. Trump is also up in, let's see, dead even with Kamala Harris in Predictit. They're tied at 52. And in Kalshi, which is an additional betting market that is now legal. You can bet on the elections in the presidency right now. Trump is dead even with Kamala Harris, 50-50 in those marketplaces as well. The reason why I bring that up is things are trending very well for Donald Trump as we sit here 27 days out from the election. And I always say, don't pay attention to what people say, pay attention to what they're doing. And all these media outlets that Kamala Harris did, which has not gone well at all for her, they all are telling you the same story, which is Kamala Harris is running like she's behind. Given that early voting is starting basically everywhere now, if you're not already able to vote early now, you will be able to vote early next week. I'm voting early. I am planning on voting next week, which is the earliest I can vote in the state of Tennessee. And I would encourage all of you to get out and vote as well as early as you possibly can, because as soon as your ballot is banked, then everybody else out there can focus on other lower probability voters. That is, if you really care about your side winning, your vote being in early helps massively. Now, I wanted to talk about this. I am holding up for you, this is the Sunday New York Times magazine. And the headline is, could he lock them up? There is now a fear that if Donald Trump wins, he's going to lock up his political rivals. Here is the subheading. Experts worry that Trump might follow through on his frequent threats to prosecute adversaries by exploiting vulnerabilities in our legal system. Now, if you were an honest media and you were not propaganda, when you laid out this and you wrote this article in this subheading, wouldn't an alarm bell go off in your head and you think, wait a minute, this is exactly what Joe Biden and Merrick Garland are already trying to do with Jack Smith. This is why we had charges in South Florida, why we had charges in D.C., what we saw happen in New York, what we saw happen in Atlanta. Wouldn't you think, wouldn't there just be a cognitive moment where you would think, wait a minute, this is what's already happening. Why have we not talked about what Joe Biden's Department of Justice has done to Trump? Why have we had almost no focus on that at all? Well, then I read the article because I try to read everything because I want to see the arguments that are being made across the political spectrum. I want to make sure that I digest and understand them so that I can make better arguments myself. And so I want to hold this up for you. And you will see down at the bottom, there's this little red box. This is the Sunday New York Times magazine. And it says in that red box, path to prosecution. And then the subheading says, how might a politically motivated prosecution actually unfold? The steps below show exactly how Donald Trump could make his threats real, all while staying within the constitutional limits on presidential power. And then there are 4 steps here. Step 1, remake the Department of Justice and the FBI. And the first sentence is, if reelected, Donald Trump is likely to nominate loyalists to top positions. He could replace the FBI director. Is this real? So, yes, of course, he is going to, quote, remake the Department of Justice and the FBI if he wins. He's going to put in people that he believes are going to do a good job. That's what the job of the Attorney General is. Step 2, open investigations or influence them. You mean like all of the investigations, including raiding Trump's home that was put in place by Merrick Garland and the FBI? Step 3, route cases to favorable judges. You mean like bring charges in Washington, D.C., which is an overwhelming Democrat jurisdiction, or bring charges in New York City, or bring charges in Atlanta? Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Step 4, appeal adverse rulings. So really what the New York Times is saying is they want Donald Trump to do the exact same things that they have had zero criticism of Joe Biden and Merrick Garland doing in terms of their use of the Department of Justice to target political rivals. Again, this is bonkers that this could be laid out and no one would say, oh, maybe we should contemplate what's going on here before all is said and done. I want to mention, so anyway, this is New York Times, erstwhile, all the news that's fit to print, unaware that everything they're afraid of Trump doing, Biden has already done. I want to close out here with a bit of a mention of the CBS News controversy. And I want to give credit to the CBS owner right now, Paramount owner, Sherry Redstone, who said she didn't think CBS News did anything wrong when they interviewed far left-winger Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he has a book out basically arguing that Israel is the bad guy in the Middle East. Now, this is the same guy who argued the case for reparations. He's not a particularly, I would say, balanced arguer. He is a polemist. He basically makes decisions and then marshals whatever evidence he can without actually considering most of the evidence, right? So in a CBS Morning interview, one of their employees pushed back on him and actually argued with him about some of the aspects of his book. That then set off an absolute panic inside of CBS News, such that they brought in the usual diversity, equity, and inclusion experts. Everybody's crying. Everybody's curled up in the fetal position. How dare an interviewer ask difficult questions of an interview subject? And I just got to be honest with you. Shouldn't that be the job of CBS News? Sherry Redstone came out and said, I didn't think we did anything wrong. I'm paraphrasing her today. And that she thinks they actually got many things inaccurate with the way that they handled all of those issues. So I just raise it as a point. The media has become so far left-wing that even challenging someone in an interview or asking them difficult questions based on the premise of their work is considered to be unacceptable. I don't even know about this crazy upside-down world we are, but that is the reality of where we have all found ourselves. All right. I love all of you. Kelly Stewart, we got a show coming up with her shortly. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis, and this has been OutKick, the show.